Today's hearing is really going to focus on mobility, inequality, and opportunity, but really at the heart of the discussion is the basic promise of America, the idea that no matter where you come from or who you are or your circumstances, if you work hard and play by the rules, you have the chance to live out the American dream. That basic promise is why I sit in this chair today. When I was 15, my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and within just a few years, he couldn't work anymore, and all of a sudden, without any warning, my family fell on very hard times. But the country didn't turn their back on us. For several months, we relied on food stamps. With the help of a government program, my mom was able to attend Lake Washington Vocational School so she could get a job, help put food on the table, and take care of my dad. My brothers and sisters and I were all able to go to college and stay in college because of student loans and support from what we now call Pell Grants. We had lost our footing, but because of this great country, we never lost hope that with hard work we'd have the opportunity to live out that American dream. But something happened to our economy over the last 3 decades or so. Instead of rewards from hard work and innovation being shared broadly, those rewards began to flow overwhelmingly to those at the very top while everyone else was getting left behind. But stagnant economic mobility and soaring inequality are not inevitable. We can expand opportunity to more Americans and ensure people have the tools that they need to succeed. And that is what Congress should be focused on in the coming years. We know that our economy thrives when America's middle class can earn enough to raise a family and save up for their kids' college and put some money away for a secure retirement. But in recent decades, the middle class has been squeezed. Wages have stagnated. Workers can't find jobs. Homeowners worry about making their next mortgage payment. That's happened even as incomes for the country's top earners have increased. That trend is simply unsustainable and unhealthy for our economy. A recent study by the International Monetary Fund shows that countries with higher inequality have slower growth and more turbulent business cycles. As you have written, Dr. Stiglitz, the United States has one of the highest levels of inequality among the advanced industrial countries. Making matters worse, as inequality has grown, it hasn't gotten any easier for people to climb the economic ladder, as we will hear from Dr. Chetty, who is joining us as we speak. Thank you very much for being here. That research finds that the birth lottery, or a child's parents' socioeconomic standing, matters more today than it used to because economic mobility is stagnant while inequality is on the rise. That is a very alarming trend because it goes against America's basic promise. Right now, there could be a child with the potential to go on to make new medical breakthroughs or start a new business or innovate new technologies. But even if she didn't win that birth lottery, our economy and the world might never benefit from her talents and skills. But Dr. Chetty, you also found in your research that some areas in the U.S. have greater economic mobility, notably places that have less inequality and good school systems. So we can overcome these challenges. Government alone cannot solve the problem of inequality. Of course, businesses that create good-paying jobs help people reach the middle class and build a stable and secure life. But we in Congress can create the conditions so that all Americans, from the top income earners to those in the middle class and those struggling to get there, can succeed. And to do that, we need to do some foundational things to help today's workers. I believe that starts with a minimum wage increase. Working full-time should not leave a family in poverty. Congress can and should act to ensure that hard work pays off by raising the minimum wage for millions of workers. Last week, I introduced the 21st Century Worker Tax Cut. That bill would update our tax code to help today's workers and families keep more of what they earn. It would give working families with children a 20% deduction on a second earner's income and expand the Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC, for workers without dependent children who are just starting out or whose children have already left home. Based on estimates from the Treasury Department and the Joint Committee on Taxation, those simple changes to our tax code would help more than 13 million childless workers and more than 7 million working families climb the economic ladder. My bill is paid for by closing corporate tax loopholes that both sides have proposed closing. I know there are differences when it comes to our parties at how we would use those savings. My bill would close those loopholes to give workers and families some tax relief, while Chairman Camp has proposed closing those loopholes to pay for lower rates for corporations. I'm hopeful that especially when they consider the kinds of challenges we are discussing today, my Republican colleagues will rethink their approach and join our effort to give a tax break to struggling workers who really need it. We also need to address all of our deficits fairly and responsibly. Our country faces serious long-term fiscal challenges. So while this year our deficit is expected to be about a third of what it was just 5 years ago, I want to continue to build on the $3.3 trillion in deficit reduction we have already put in place. But at the same time, creating opportunity means we can't lose sight of the other deficits that our country faces. Too many people still can't find work. Our economy is still recovering after the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. So we have to do more for people who are struggling to find a job. We have to also address our infrastructure deficit. Infrastructure is what makes our economy move. It helps our businesses grow. It makes our communities thrive. We need to make those investments to spark economic growth and to create more jobs for more workers. We have to also give our kids the best education and training they need to compete and lead the world. And that means investing in early learning all the way up to college and job training programs. And we have to maintain a strong safety net. Programs like food assistance and affordable housing help make sure families don't fall into deep poverty or hunger or homelessness. Instead, it gives families more opportunity to climb the economic ladder. And the last point I'll mention is the need to reform our tax code. Our system is riddled with tax loopholes and special interest carve-outs that benefit the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations, and that's unfair. Instead of spending billions on those tax loopholes, we should be investing in national priorities that benefit American families. We have lots of work to do for families in our country, and in our divided government, getting anything done is going to take bipartisanship and compromise. Thankfully, here in Congress, we proved just a few months ago that's possible. Democrats and Republicans can break through the bitterness and rancor, work together, and reach an agreement. When Chairman Ryan and I sat down together after the government shutdown last year, we faced a lot of skepticism that we would be able to get anything done. But we listened to each other, we searched for common ground, and we made some compromises. We knew we were never going to agree on everything, but we didn't think that should mean that we couldn't agree on anything. And when we got a deal just a few months ago, the vast majority of Congress put partisanship aside to do the right thing for the American people. Our two-year budget deal was a strong step in the right direction. It rolled back some of the damaging across-the-board cuts and prevented a government shutdown. It restored some certainty by setting budget levels, not just for 2014, but also for 2015, so our appropriations committees in the House and Senate can do their work on time using bipartisan numbers. Now we need to build on that. We shouldn't relitigate our bipartisan budget deal or create needless uncertainty again in a budget process that should finally be free of crisis. And I will certainly fight back against any attempts to move our country backwards, with deeper cuts to investments for our families and seniors, or unfair and irresponsible budget proposals that protect the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations from paying a penny more of their fair share. But we do owe it to our constituents to keep working together towards policies that create jobs, increases economic mobility, and gives more people opportunity. Every child growing up today deserves the same shot at the American dream that my family had. And I'm ready to work with anyone, Democrat or Republican, to get that done.